This is the 80s Show on iHeartRadio.
Say ho, ho, say ho, 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 ho. Let's start the show. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Say ho, ho, say ho, whoa, ho, whoa. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
So, the other afternoon, I'm hanging around the house, as one does with not a whole lot to do, and going through my Netflix instant queue, trying to figure out what it is I'm going to watch. And I don't know about you, but I spend a lot more time adding stuff to the queue and less time watching it. It gets to be this frustrating thing where you're just like, oh, come on. But I actually sort of bit down and decided I'd give this show Unplanned America a go. I was like, that sounds all right. That sounds pretty cool to me. It's a bunch of Australian guys who quit their jobs, bought themselves a very, very, very used 1999 Toyota Camry and filmed themselves traveling across America. And I couldn't put it down. I watched the entire season in one go. It was amazing. And I was like, I wonder if these guys are on Facebook. Turns out they were, and they actually responded to me. So we usually when we get guests on the air, we have to go through all sorts of like agents or record labels or things like that. These guys just wrote me back and were like, sure, we'll be on the show. So we're very happy to be joined from Australia by, it's Parv and Gonzo from Unplanned America, correct?
Yeah, that's us. We need to work on getting an agent. No one's approached us yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, makes us sound so amateur.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. The thing that's kind of incredible about you guys is you're on Netflix, and I don't know what it takes to be on Netflix, but to be from another country, to have your stuff picked up by Netflix, especially when it is sort of a DIY operation, as it seems to be, is quite incredible. And we'll talk a little bit about the show and the content of it in just a little bit. But let me set up the story, and let me just see if I've got things right. You guys did some TV in Australia, or you do television in Australia, or you had up till this point?
Yeah, we actually all met together working at MTV Australia. We were just sort of producers there, and that's sort of where we plied our trade for a few years. So we had a bit of sort of skills to back us up, but we didn't have a lot of money, and we kind of just quit our jobs, and that's how we headed over to the States, just trying to make something by ourselves with no kind of idea really where it would end up. So whereas the whole Netflix thing's kind of amazing to us, just to think that it is being viewed by Americans now, when we kind of set out just to make it and see what would come of it when we got back to Australia. It's kind of all a bit mind-blowing for us.
So, I mean, Funkhauser and I were talking about this earlier when we were thinking about you guys coming on the show, because we're sort of like American broadcasting dudes that keep talking about like, wouldn't it be great to do something where we're not beholden to the man, where we're not under the corporate thumb, where we get to do whatever the hell we want to do. And then we saw you guys, we're like, man, F those guys. They did it. They quit their jobs. You crowdfunded this trip partially and like saved up cash. Like you just went for it, right?
Yeah, well, we just we had dinner one day and we were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do the conversation that everyone has? And then we decided to actually do it. And then I ended up camping in my mate's backyard for like 8 months, saving all my money just to raise cash. And,
I'm still living with my parents, so I'm still paying off debts. But yeah, I think it was just one of those things we felt compelled to do it. We were like, let's just get on the road. Let's take 6 months of our life and, have as much of an adventure as we can. And then ideally that'll develop into the show. We'll get ourselves in situations and it'll be hopefully compelling for other people. But it was just kind of take the plunge and get out there.
See, Funkhauser, this is what real men with actual testicles do. They put their money where their mouth is and they go after their dreams. They camp out in their friends' backyards. They live with their moms and they go, whatever it takes, man. We're just going to do it. I know. It's really, really impressive. So you came to America, you lived here for 6 months, traveling around in a 1999 Camry, living sometimes in the Camry, I believe, if I'm not totally mistaken. And you wanted to document America from an outsider's perspective. And as someone who I grew up in London, and I'm American, but I grew up in London, and I have, I guess, a little bit of a hey, what the hell is going on here type of perspective with relation to America sometimes. But anybody that has sort of problems finding the silver lining in terms of what's going on in America at the moment, I mean, you should just watch Unplanned America anyway, but you should definitely watch it if you're looking for guys that can find the upside in America. Because you went to like horrifically bad neighborhoods in Chicago and Detroit. Detroit where people were getting shot, killed, losing their jobs, living in deserted, burnt out buildings. And you're like, you know what? There's hope here. And you found the bright side of the situation. Was that really easy to do, or did you have to look for it? I mean, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that was my real takeaway from this is like, oh man, they have a really upbeat view of America that maybe some people here could do well to be exposed to.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess we didn't set out with that intention, but we kind of found ourselves in these scenarios. And I think just when you spend a bit of time with anybody and you get to know their story, it kind of natural, for us anyway, we kind of were naturally empathetic to these stories we heard. And we didn't want, we weren't kind of trying to do something that was like, oh, look at Americans, look how funny they are. It was just kind of a country that intrigued us. And everyone we met was just, I guess, so good to us. And we could sort of just find ways to relate to their stories, even if seemingly we came from completely different circumstances. So it just kind of something that came about, and I hate to use the word organically, but it came about somewhat organically through the experience. I don't know, everyone we sort of met and spent time with were very generous to us. We sort of stayed on a lot of people's couches and floors that we never met before, and that was kind of the spirit of the whole trip, was just sort of just getting to know people on a basic sort of human level and understanding where they're coming from. And I think if you do that generally in life, you kind of see where it's easier to relate to people than you kind of might initially think.
Right on. Well, when we get back, we'll talk a little bit about your time hanging out with Kanye West's former manager, John Monopoly, in Chicago, and being in fear of your lives because you were toting some cameras around some exceedingly bad neighborhoods. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Thanks, guys.
If I could smash all your fingers so you could never touch a guitar again and make that horrible thing that you so laughably call music. That's not what the word music means. That's not how you use it. You gave it a shot. You tried your best. Your best just sucked without enough. So hang it up. Just give it up. It's time somebody lets you know that you will never be good enough. You will never be one of us. You will never be good enough. You know why? You're better sucks, and you're going nowhere. Once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving your music a savior. Back once again, it's your boy 18, can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving your music a savior. Back once again, it's your boy 18, can't nobody rock a body better than me. Hey, you, what's that sound? Coming so loud from your radio dial, ADV, get it down when you're rocking the jams. Here I am, going back once again, I'm ruling all city like
So if you are just joining us, we are joined in the studio, well, not really in the studio, via Skype from Australia by Gonzo and Parv from Unplanned America, which is an amazing series on Netflix. Three guys from Australia who used to work for MTV, I think saved their pennies, lived in a tent in their friends' yards, lived with their moms, sold it all, and came to America, lived here for 6 months, sometimes living out of their car, doing a lot of couch surfing, and made an incredible documentary series called Unplanned America, which I really, really highly recommend you watch. On a shoestring budget, they drove across the United States, looking specifically at, I guess, the idea was to take a look at the countercultures of America, correct?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we just were trying to find quirky, interesting, strange things that we took an interest in, and sometimes it was just a matter of someone that we were staying with, couch surfing with, were like, oh, there's a frozen dead guy up on the mountain that you should go and check out. So we're like, well, how can you not go and check out a frozen dead guy up on a mountain? So a lot of it was kind of serendipitous in the people we were staying with sort of had little local insights to stuff. And so it was just kind of things that we had some interest in and just things that sort of happened to come our way as we were traveling around and just sort of open to the idea of adventure, I suppose.
Right. You guys went to Seattle and hung out with real-life superheroes, normal folks without the benefit of superpowers who still consider themselves masked vigilantes. You went to the gathering of the Juggalos in Illinois. You hung out with Kanye West's old manager, John Monopoly, and went to a really bad part of Chicago and watched music videos get shot. You went to Detroit. You guys spent a lot of time in the Midwest and a lot of time in the depressed area of Detroit. One of the things I loved about that was, I mean, there was people there living in pretty lousy situations, burnt out buildings, there's no money, there's no jobs, there's no prospects. And you managed to go there and find people that had a real silver lining to the situation. Was that one of your favorite parts of the journey, so to speak?
Yeah, that was actually a real favorite of ours, especially because we actually went there just because someone was like, oh, you should go to Detroit and check out all the cool abandoned buildings. And we were like, going there expecting this kind of crappy environment and cool, abandoned buildings. And then what we found, actually, as you see in the episode, was actually this whole unexpected kind of inspiring, almost like renaissance kind of going on there, which was, surprising and really, really inspiring for us.
The the thing that I noticed when I was watching it was like you guys wound up in some reasonably gnarly situations on a regular basis where you could have been exposed to real danger. The only time I ever detected even a hint of nervousness with you was the episode where you went to Slab City, this off-the-grid community in California. Like there was genuine nervous tension there where you guys... Please explain what happened.
We were petrified.
We'd actually read something about some Canadian documentary crew or something that got rushed out of town, scared out of there and had to stop filming once. And you're like, what's going to happen here? So yeah, we took precautions with our stun gun, but we were proven wrong because they were welcoming, lovely, just sort of alternative folk, and we didn't know what to expect going in there. I guess you hear off the grid and you hear no cops around. So to be honest, the town just outside of Slab City, Nyland, was far more frightening than actually Slab City. So that's just a brief insight. But yeah, it was kind of bizarre. But funnily enough, a couple of people from Slab City have seen the show and reached out to us, and I thought that they were living off the grid. So it's the mind blowing continues from Slab City.
Yeah. So what made the city right outside of it scarier?
It was just, it's actually quite sad, really. I guess it's just really quite a really poor town, and there was just sort of looked like there was a few junkies around, and just a bit kind of abandoned itself. It wasn't really it was just sort of like a one street town kind of vibe.
Yeah, we just felt that's where we felt a bit more threatened, I guess.
Yeah, so we ended up driving about an hour away and sleeping on a park bench that night. But Slab City was great. I'd recommend anyone that lives in around I guess Southern California, even if you just check out Salvation Mountain before you get to Slab City, it's a pretty interesting place out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's almost been sort of romanticized because it was in that movie Into the Wild, which is a true story. You know, and you kind of see how folks live there. And I was really interested to compare the version of Slab City in Into the Wild to your version of it. I was like, wow, not that different. It's genuinely it's people completely trying to live off of the grid. And I love the fact that when you're getting ready to go to the party at Slab City, you were just like, all right, we're taking all the essentials, a 6-pack and a stun gun. Yep, that'll work.
Yeah. Well, it actually turned out the stun gun stayed in our pocket, but the beers did earn us friends. So I think I think it's better to bring people together through beers than shock them away with stun guns. That's my takeaway lesson.
And I think it helps when you're, not rolling up in some fancy corporate-looking mobile, when you're rolling up in a graffitied up, broken down kind of.
Yeah, we look like we sort of fit in.
No, you're. I mean, in a sense, you were doing something a little different as well. I mean, you'd been camping out in your friend's backyard and essentially not having a fixed address and living in a car and just being a little bit transient, albeit for the point of dirty money, huge capitalism to go be enormous Netflix rock stars and make an incredible documentary. No. But on the other hand,
I'm not living with my parents anymore. I've moved into a pub.
Good. Things are looking up. So I guess we should probably talk turkey. Anyone bang anyone at Slab City?
No.
Nah. There's no sex was had on the trip at all, unfortunately.
None? In 6 months?
No, I don't know. My mum might be listening. She doesn't need to know.
Trust me, your mom's not listening to this. We're all good. Are you? Wait. Seriously?
Certain lifelong friends while we travel to the States.
Yeah, our Aussie accents don't hurt in America.
No, they really don't. I mean, I am aware of this. Like, when I started in broadcasting, I had this weird Anglo-American thing going on from my time in England. So I'm aware of what a foreign accent can do for you in America, especially in places like the dirty South and where it's completely foreign to them. So it was funny. I was just like, I bet these guys did rather well with the female population of America. We're just 3 adventuresome Australians traveling across the country, having an awesome time all time. So what? Oh, fine.
Yeah,
hop on if you must.
It's pretty fun. Like I went to a music festival in Alabama, and I just remember I'd order a drink, and everyone would turn around and look, and even like guys would get their girl